So I'll shift gears and we'll get into the appeal process because once you have your baseline and you're going to want to have those schools stacked up side by side, here's what they cost. Go through that exercise. And now we can begin to think about, okay, so now that we have schools stacked up side by side, do we have a special circumstance appeal? And then I'll get into merit appeals to wrap us up. So these are the main things that they have listed that you can special circumstance if someone passes away, separation or divorce, loss of a job, job got downsized or shrunk, um, change in job, loss of child support, like that one, all child support goes away. That's kind of a weird one, but so you can kind of see excessive medical expenses. So basically, if there's when we look at how you file your financial aid forms, they're looking at the prior tax year. So you're going off to school in the fall of 26, but they were looking at your 2024 tax return, right? So a lot can change in that period. All these things can change. So if your 2024 taxes don't represent your current financials, you probably have a reason to appeal. These are the most common ones, but that's the most common, like if you have a chance. So what I typically advise is so for special circumstance appeal, do some of your homework. So go to the school's net price calculator, or you can use ours too for the college money report. We'll give that, and then so get at least hey if I simulated what my 2025 income was, not 24 but 25, and you may know that already. I would say file your taxes early for 25 because that's the easiest way to go get your special circumstance appeal done. So if you can get your taxes in for 25 and say, hey, 24 we made 190,000, 25 we only made 80, or whatever that difference is. That's the easiest way to make a really good appeal for special circumstance. So you're going to want to follow their guidance is the just kind of the note I put in there. Because most school you're required to have a special circumstance appeal process now. So some schools have tried to say that they don't, but we've assured them that they do. So from a results standpoint, you're going to need to follow their process. I think I pulled up. Yeah. So this is just UC. I think they have a website dedicated to it. So if you have whatever your school is, Google's your friend. Just say University of Cincinnati Special Circumstance Appeal. It'll pull up for you. So that's what I did to find this. I don't know where it's at. I don't have a bookmark. It's just so they want to, in my experience, the financial aid office as well as these folks, they really do want to get people the aid that they need. Smaller colleges and universities are probably better at it just because of the less number, but understand these aren't like people like they're sitting there like they don't want to give you any money. If you've got a legitimate special circumstance, they do want to help. So they are very cognizant of trying to avoid the bad actors as well. So if you've got a legitimate reason, they're going to have that, and they're going to tell you submitting an appeal. Here's how you do it: professional judgment, special circumstance, student aid index appeal. So professional judgment's a key. You're not looking to negotiate. You're looking for them to, give you a professional judgment because what was reported is not our current situation. And then it talks about here's what you can expect and kind of expectations. So having documentation, having your ducks in a row. That's why I say having your 25 tax return done if you're going for a to have an appeal right now is the best way to have that done. And then I think you have to and theirs you have to have submitted the FAFSA, and then they're going to look for income, and they might even dig into expenses. So having your tax returns, what your expenses look like, what your debts might look like, anything that justifies your appeal. And I think they have a letter. If they don't have a letter, they've got I think they do though. There's a portal. So everything's run through the portal. That's another thing with all of this stuff. I didn't kind of hit on that, but like all of this stuff is going to be reported through the portal. Some of them are still sending emails and sending letters, but the financial aid portals are kind of the truth. That's where you're going to get your bottom lines, and you're going to continue to use that throughout college. So checking in there, that's where things will happen. Yeah, and I think they have a submit a letter of appeal, but they also have a form. So if they ask for a letter, appeal. I mean, get a letter together. So, and I'll send this out tomorrow, but this is one we had success with because of some unexpected changes, and we used their net price calculator. And essentially, was this Nova? Yeah. So essentially, this family went through some changes with some divorce and a number of things, but the situation that they report on FAFSA is it's not it, they qualified for a lot more, and we knew that. But when the financial aid award letter come, it certainly didn't show that. So even though this school has, they take what's called the CSS profile. There's a section on there. They try to describe it. Of if you do that ahead of time, and it's a question I get frequently. Well, do we put that in there? Like, hey, do you have any extenuating circumstances? And I typically do not. I've just had better success going back to the school and pleading my case this time of year with the school directly. Because there's nowhere on there does it allow you to put in an updated tax return. So in this case, this was a similar, like a lot of things changed. Here's what's happened. And we need to reassess it. And essentially it was 40,000 more for the year. So for the year, it's 40,000 more. So these can be successful. This one was a concrete example of how that could work out. So um, we can hit questions, but that's special circumstance. Follow their process. Do your homework. Have the documentation, and get hopefully get it done. And they, like I said, a lot of times they do want to help. Just follow their process. Okay, so a lot of people probably stuck around to get competitive appeal process and success. So this is an art and a science, I would say. So if you're looking to get competitive appeals, the process actually usually begins with the schools you're applying to. That's thing number one. And you want to get a read on the front end. If you do visits, get an expectation of what type of scholarships might we get. And then I would say too, a lot of times if you're not a need-based candidate and you know this is really your only opportunity for free money, understand try to get them to commit to what they will actually you would get in scholarship. And a lot of times that's difficult for them unless they have more of a grid type process, like we see in schools, quite frankly, in the South. Alabama and Tennessee, a lot of them, if you do this, you'll get this. So understanding what you need to do to get these scholarships is important. I had a very talented student, 4.2, busy athlete. He was applying to a school that was test optional, and they've gotten back their financial aid stuff. And she said, "Well, he's such a good student. Why didn't he get any scholarship?" I said, "Well, they require an ACT or an SAT. They'll admit him, but there's no scholarships for you. They tell you in plain, it's right there. It says, you need to have an ACT, SAT, and the GPA. So yes, it's optional to submit that test score, but it's not optional if you want scholarships. So that's a tough
And
pill.
yeah, that's not true at every school. Students
Mhm.
can still get scholarships if they apply test optional, but we have noticed we keep a lot of internal data, um, and we see that students who submit test scores tend to get a higher dollar amount in
Mhm.
scholarships than those who do not. Now, good test scores, of course, but that's incentive for students to take the testing process seriously.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's just knowing on the front end, like, do they require it or not, and is it some schools their scholarships are GPA only. So it just depends on the school. But when you build your school list, understand if we want to get scholarships, what's required to get those. And a lot of times it's a combination or it's so just be aware of that if you want it competitive. And then building your list if you want to appeal for more money, you may have schools you apply to that you don't really have an interest in going to if you know they're going to give you a high scholarship. And I'll show you some examples here in a second. So a couple key points I make: student needs to lead the process. Parents can support them, right? But the student needs to lead the process. I put like have genuine interest and a compelling competing offer is the best way to get the most money. And so starting the process, find your advocate. So understand the financial aid process and getting need-based aid is going to go through the financial aid office, but these appeals are going to go through the admissions and the scholarship committee. So really, it sounds funny, but they are a different office, and the money comes from a different pot. Ultimately, they come together in the end, but just understanding that's important. So your advocate, it's typically whoever your admissions counselor was that you had from the university. That's your first stop, unless you have been to a camp and you've got a professor. But that admissions person, their job is to get people to enroll. So they if they've given you at admissions and they've already given you a pretty good scholarship offer, they're the one you want to go back to and say, not give me more money. You want to say, I simply start with an email or a call and say, what's the process to be considered for more scholarship money? So just learn what the process is. Some are more formal than others. So, but oftentimes it's, well, give us your documentation of why you think this makes sense. And with competing offers, that's the easiest way. But sometimes if you just got no scholarship, like, hey, you just blanked me. And I think I'm a good, darn good student. I think I should get, I deserve something. So I'll go through one of those. So when we look at, it's down here, I'm putting those for samples, but this is a successful appeal at Syracuse. But we had really good other letters in hand from good schools, and there was several more. But the idea there was, look, we really want to come to your school, but you gave us zero discount. This family actually did have dollars to pay, but it's like this student earned it. So to give nothing, we thought was pretty egregious. And but ultimately they came back with $10,000. We asked for 15. So in a letter we asked for 15. They came back and said we're going to offer you 10, and we said that would be good. So that ten was a $40,000. For a few hours work. Student really did lead the process and wrote a really compelling letter. So I'm going to pop back out here. I think this is it. So these appeal letters are just phrased differently, but when I talk about kind of the elements, be grateful, show that you're really interested in going to that campus. Be grateful for the generous offer. Like here with this, they gave him 31. This is University of Dayton in this particular one, top choice, but the gap makes it difficult. I want nothing more to come, but I would need another 7,000 to make the cost comparable to other and more affordable for our family. So you put a little personal situation. If you've been to a camp, if you have some demonstrated interest in that college, absolutely go and talk to them. Put that in there. I've been coming here since I was a freshman or, in high school, and I love it. And I've come to camps and whatever those things are. These schools do value how committed you are to coming and being a good part of their community. So this one came back with 5,000 more from Dayton. So, but the reason really came down to for this was the starting point. So just tying these all together.